There's a deep truth hidden in the way God weaves relationships into our lives. He operates by divine timing, not human planning. We often think of love as something we can schedule, predict, or even control. We say things like, by this age, I'll be married, or when I achieve this, I'll be ready to meet the right person. Yet God's timing refuses to submit to our calendars. His orchestration does not depend on our convenience, but on our readiness. What looks like delay to us is often divine preparation. You see, divine timing is not passive waiting. It is purposeful waiting. It's the kind of waiting that transforms you while you wait. When God withholds something you desire deeply, it is not because he's cruel or indifferent, but because he's ensuring that what he's preparing will align with what he's transforming within you. He doesn't just prepare the blessing, he prepares you for the blessing. And when it comes to meeting your soulmate, this truth becomes even more profound. If God introduced you to your soulmate before your heart was healed, your wounds would interpret their love as a threat. If he introduced you before your faith matured, you would mistake emotional excitement for spiritual connection. God's timing protects both you and the person meant for you. It ensures that when two lives finally intersect, they meet as whole souls, not broken fragments trying to fix one another. Think of it this way. If a seed demanded to bloom before its season, it would die in the frost. Likewise, if love blooms too soon, it often withers before it has roots. Divine timing is the invisible climate of your destiny. It nurtures growth in secret, then reveals fruit in fullness. That's why sometimes you meet people who seem right but arrive at the wrong time. They are not mistakes. They are mirrors meant to reveal what still needs growth inside you. God allows those almost connections to teach you what divine alignment truly feels like. Many people grow frustrated during waiting seasons because they confuse silence with inactivity. But heaven is never still while you wonder why things aren't happening. God is aligning circumstances, refining character, and orchestrating timing in ways beyond your awareness. He's protecting you from entering a connection that would damage your destiny. He's teaching you to value his voice over your impulses. And he's shaping your vision so that when the right person stands before you, you will recognize them not by appearance, but by spirit. Divine timing is also an act of mercy. God will not give you what your maturity cannot sustain. Sometimes he delays the introduction because the relationship you desire requires a stronger version of you. He delays not to deny, but to develop. And when the moment finally eyes, it will carry a peace that confirms his hand. You won't have to chase, force, or manipulate it because divine timing does not need assistance. It needs trust. When you surrender your plans to God's timing, something extraordinary happens. You begin to rest. You stop worrying about how, when, or who. You start to focus on becoming the kind of person who can recognize and nurture divine love when it comes. You realize that every note, every delay, and every detour was a necessary thread in the pattern of your preparation. Because when God introduces you to your soulmate, it will not just be a meeting of two hearts. It will be the fulfillment of divine timing that had been in motion long before you even began to pray. Before God introduces you to your soulmate, he begins by preparing you. Many people pray for the right person without realizing that divine love is not something you stumble into. It's something you must be shaped to sustain. God's way of bringing two people together is not merely about compatibility. It's about maturity. He knows that what the heart desires must be supported by the character that carries it. And so before the divine connection, there is divine conditioning. Preparation before connection means that God works within you before he works around you. He refines your patience, deepens your discernment, and strengthens your faith. You may find yourself in seasons where everything feels delayed or even denied, but in reality, God is not withholding love. He's preparing you to receive it without losing yourself in it. He wants you to know who you are in him before you join your life with someone else. Because if you don't know your own worth, you'll hand it over to anyone who offers attention. In this divine preparation, God often isolates before he aligns. He separates you from distractions, relationships that drain your spirit, and patterns that keep you repeating cycles of disappointment. During these quiet seasons, you might feel forgotten, but in truth, you are being focused. God uses solitude to restore clarity He teaches you to find joy in his presence, not in constant company, because until you find peace alone, you'll never find peace together. Preparation is also about healing. Many pray for a soulmate while still carrying the residue of past wounds. But love cannot flourish where bitterness still resides. So God brings to the surface what you've buried. He confronts the pain you've ignored, the habits you've justified, and the fears you've hidden. It may feel uncomfortable, even painful, but healing always precedes wholeness. God cannot build a lasting connection on a fractured foundation. He also prepares you by shaping your spiritual vision. Often we ask God for someone who will complete us, when he desires to send someone who will complement our calling. The difference is profound. Completion implies deficiency, but divine partnership is about multiplication. You and your soulmate are not two halves making a whole. You are two whole souls joining to fulfill a greater purpose. God doesn't just want you to find love, he wants you to walk in purpose together. Preparation refines your perception of love itself. You begin to understand that love is not constant excitement, but consistent commitment. It's not built on chemistry alone, but on covenant. Through seasons of waiting, God teaches you how to love sacrificially, forgive freely, and communicate with grace. These lessons are not wasted. They are the spiritual muscles that will sustain your relationship when emotions fluctuate and trials arise. In this process, God is preparing not only you, but also the person meant for you. Somewhere, someone else is being molded in the same divine workshop. Their faith is being stretched, their character is being refined, and their understanding of love is being purified. You are both walking different paths toward the same promise. And when those paths finally meet, you'll recognize each other, not because of perfection, but because of preparation. So if you find yourself in a season of waiting, don't rush the process. Every unanswered prayer is part of the lesson. Every delay is a tool shaping your readiness. When God finally connects you with your soulmate, you'll look back and realize why the preparation was necessary. It wasn't just to bring you love, but to make you capable of keeping it. Delays are one of the most misunderstood parts of God's plan. When we wait longer than expected for something our hearts long for, especially love, we often assume that something has gone wrong. But in God's design, delays are not denials. They are classrooms of divine instruction. The waiting room is where faith matures, vision sharpens, and the soul learns to distinguish between good timing and God's timing. What feels like postponement is often protection. What seems like silence is actually strategy. God hides lessons within delays because some wisdom can only be learned through waiting. When you ask God for a soulmate and the answer seems slow to arrive, it doesn't mean he has forgotten you. It means he is still forming what you asked for. Sometimes the person he intends for you is still growing into who they need to be. Other times he's working on your heart, removing fear, refining trust, and healing the remnants of old pain that would sabotage new love. A delay allows you to meet love with wisdom rather than desperation. It transforms longing into readiness because divine love cannot thrive in a rushed spirit. It blooms in hearts that have learned patience. Delays also expose what we truly believe. In moments of waiting, impatience tries to disguise itself as faith. We say we trust God, yet secretly we attempt to control outcomes, force connections, or settle for less. But when heaven closes certain doors, it's an act of mercy. God lets some relationships fall apart to keep your destiny intact. Every unanswered text, every lost opportunity, every unexpected ending is a teacher. They reveal what we cling to more tightly than God's will. Through delay, he trains us to choose peace over panic, faith over frustration, and purpose over impulse. Another hidden lesson in delay is humility. When you wait longer than you thought you would, pride begins to die. You start to realize that love is not earned through effort, but received through grace. You stop comparing your timeline to others because you understand that divine purpose cannot be measured by human pace. God is never late because eternity doesn't measure minutes, it measures readiness. Every moment you spend waiting is building something eternal within you: endurance, gratitude, and clarity. Delays are also divine filters. They sift out what is temporary so that what is true can remain. Some people will not wait with you, and that's how you know they were never meant to walk with you. Waiting reveals character, not just yours, but theirs. The one designed for you will not be frightened by process or distance because they too are being refined by waiting. True love values preparation more than instant gratification. It knows that patience is not punishment. It is proof of purpose. In the stillness of delay, God often whispers lessons that busy seasons drown out. You learn to hear his voice more clearly. You learn to recognize peace as confirmation and confusion as caution. You realize that what you once called loneliness was actually sacred space. Space for transformation, space for revelation, space for God to reshape your desires until they align with his. The delay becomes the very tool that teaches you what kind of love you are called to give and receive. When the appointed time finally arrives, you'll understand why you had to wait. The lessons you learned in the silence will protect what you receive in the fulfillment. The wisdom born in patience will sustain the love born in promise. You'll no longer resent the waiting, you'll revere it, because in hindsight, you'll see that the delay was not an obstacle, it was the divine bridge between who you were and who you needed to become, to carry the love God had prepared. One of the most beautiful mysteries of God's design is how he uses the unexpected to lead us to what is meant for us. When we imagine meeting our soulmate, we often picture a perfect scenario, an ideal setting, flawless timing, effortless connection. Yet in reality, God rarely works through perfection. He delights in using the unlikely, the inconvenient, and the unpredictable to fulfill his divine purposes. The person destined for you may enter your life through a season of confusion, a painful ending, or even a detour you never planned to take. That is because God's introductions are often hidden within interruptions. From the beginning of Scripture, we see this pattern. God led Ruth to Boaz through loss and relocation. He led Isaac to Rebekah through a servant's prayer by a well. He brought Mary and Joseph together through a divine assignment that defied human logic. Each of these unions began in unlikely circumstances, yet each carried eternal significance. God does not follow human blueprints. He writes divine ones. The path that looks messy to you may be miraculous in his plan. What feels like coincidence is often the choreography of heaven. Unlikely paths reveal the sovereignty of God. When he wants to align two destinies, he can use any situation, a job change, a family crisis, a random conversation, to set things in motion. The reason it often feels unexpected is because divine purpose moves in dimensions we cannot see. God is always several steps ahead, weaving stories that will one day intersect in ways that make perfect sense. Every detour, every disappointment, every closed door becomes a divine thread connecting you to the person who will walk beside you in purpose. These unexpected introductions also humble us. They remind us that love is not something we can engineer. You cannot plan destiny. You can only position yourself to recognize it. When God orchestrates the meeting, it will not be forced. It will flow naturally, even if it begins in an unlikely way. The timing may seem inconvenient. The situation may appear ordinary, but deep within there will be peace. A quiet knowing that this encounter is different. God often hides the extraordinary inside the ordinary, so that only those with spiritual discernment will recognize it. Sometimes God allows you to meet your soulmate when you feel least prepared, precisely to show you that his grace, not your readiness, completes the story. You might be focused on healing from the past, pursuing your calling, or rebuilding your faith when they appear. It is in those moments when you least expect it that divine introductions occur. Because when your focus is on God rather than on searching, you are finally in a position to receive without striving. You stop chasing love and start attracting it through obedience. Unlikely paths also protect you from pride. If the meeting happened exactly as you planned, you might take credit for it, but when God arranges it through a series of unpredictable turns, you can only give him glory. You realize that only divine wisdom could have turned your mistakes into miracles and your delays into destiny. What seemed random now looks intentional. What seemed like loss now looks like alignment. The truth is, God often uses discomfort as direction. The same event that breaks your routine may be the bridge that leads you to your blessing. The same setback that forced you to move or change may be the setup for your divine connection. Every twist and turn in your journey has meaning. When you look back, you'll see that nothing was wasted. Every unlikely path was part of God's sacred plan to bring you face to face with the one he chose long before you knew what love truly meant. When God joins two people together, his intention reaches far beyond romance. It extends into purpose. Love, in its truest and most divine form, is not simply about companionship or comfort. It is about calling. A soulmate is not sent to complete you, but to complement what God has placed within you. They are a divine partner in purpose, a co-laborer in destiny. This kind of partnership does not revolve around fleeting emotions or surface-level attraction. It is anchored in something eternal, God's assignment for your lives. A purpose-driven partnership begins with understanding that every relationship ordained by God serves a higher mission. When two souls are aligned under divine will, their union becomes a platform for impact. Their love latifies of God's character, his patience, his forgiveness, his creativity, his faithfulness. The strength of their bond is measured not by how easy life is, but by how faithfully they endure together. Because purpose-driven love does not escape challenges. It transforms them into opportunities for growth. Every disagreement becomes a classroom. Every hardship a training ground. Every victory a shared testimony. This type of relationship requires spiritual maturity. It asks you to see beyond what you feel and recognize what God is building. A purpose-driven soulmate will challenge your comfort zones. They will not always tell you what you want to hear. They will tell you what will help you grow. They see the potential in you that you sometimes overlook, and they will call it forth even when it's uncomfortable. In this kind of connection, correction is not rejection, it's refinement. Love that only soothes you can make you stagnant, but love that sharpens you, prepares you for destiny. God uses purpose-driven relationships to shape character. When two people are united by faith, they learn the true meaning of service and sacrifice. They begin to reflect the relationship between Christ and the church, love that gives, forgives, and endures. This reflection becomes their ministry to the world. People who encounter them don't just see affection, they see alignment. They see two individuals who have surrendered personal ambition to serve a shared divine vision. And through that surrender, their lives become a living sermon of grace and perseverance. A purpose-driven soulmate will also protect your peace and nurture your growth. They are not threatened by your calling, but inspired by it. They don't compete with your purpose. They contribute to it. Together, you both become stronger than you could ever be alone. Where one is weak, the other intercedes. Where one is weary, the other uplifts. This divine balance mirrors the unity that God himself designed in creation. Two distinct souls harmonizing under one divine rhythm. But to experience such a partnership, both hearts must first be aligned with God before being aligned with each other. You cannot build divine unity on human selfishness. When your focus is on fulfilling purpose rather than seeking perfection, your relationships transform. You start asking not, what can I get from this person? But what can we build for God together? That shift changes everything. Because when love is led by purpose, even ordinary moments become sacred, and even trials become testimonies. When you finally meet the person who is meant to walk beside you in divine purpose, the connection will feel different. It will carry peace instead of pressure, clarity instead of confusion, mission instead of manipulation. You will both sense that your meeting is not coincidence, it is calling together. You will build, serve, and grow in ways that glorify God. And in doing so, your love will become what it was always meant to be, not just a bond between two hearts, but a bridge between heaven's purpose and earth's need. The journey to your soulmate is not a chase, it is a calling. God is not simply arranging a meeting, he is orchestrating a masterpiece. Every season of delay, every prayer that seemed unanswered, every path that took an unexpected turn was part of a divine pattern meant to shape, strengthen, and prepare you. You were never waiting alone. Heaven has been working behind the scenes, aligning hearts and timing with precision far beyond human understanding. When you look back, you will realize that nothing was wasted. The solitude taught you identity. The preparation built your faith. The delays deepened your discernment. The unlikely paths revealed God's sovereignty. And the moment of connection will reveal his faithfulness, because the one who calls you is faithful, and he will do it not by your striving, but by his promise. Your soulmate is not just someone who makes you feel loved, but someone who helps you live out God's purpose with greater clarity and strength. Together, you will not only share affection, you will share assignment. You will understand that divine love is not about finding perfection, but about fulfilling purpose side by side. That is the kind of connection heaven honors and the kind of love that endures beyond time. So do not rush what God is still writing. Trust his process. Trust his preparation. Trust his timing. Because when God finally introduces you to the one he chose for you, it will not just be love. It will be destiny revealed. And you will know deep within your spirit that every step of the journey, every tear and every prayer was leading you right where you were always meant to be.